everyone, to another episode of Keto Chat. I am your host, Carol Freeman, certified nutritionist, creator of the Fast Track to Keto Success program. Today, in studio, I love when I got a guest that can be here local, live in studio. Well, it's not live. We're live now, but Susan Jones, Susan Cupcake Jones. Are you going to be changing the middle name soon, or anyway? So
yeah, you know, and that is really hard because they still, like, even Wednesday night they brought some of my cupcake followers brought cupcakes to the show, and I just look at them like, oh man, I can't even remember what it's like to eat that much sugar in one little sitting. I mean, cupcakes are huge amounts of, but I can make keto cupcakes, so
yeah.
But cupcakes kind of a feeling.
Okay.
It's kind of a personality, and I'm still shaped like a cupcake.
Okay.
But
sweet.
I think I got my joke is they call me Cupcake because you can't trust me with a real cake.
Oh, yeah. Full size one,
yeah.
Well, for people who don't know who you are, so you're a comedian, you've been doing the keto on your own here and had pretty significant progress on it so far. And
yeah, we're keto people. We live a keto lifestyle, but it started, my weight loss journey started with the sleeve. But I was a few pounds below 600.
Okay.
And some people are like, oh, you just didn't push it. And like, no, you never want to get to 600. But my adrenal system wasn't working. My thyroid wasn't working. Obviously, it was out of control. And I drove myself to Mexico.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And had the weight loss surgery done. And at about 160 pounds the first year off, I was moving more. But I was still in a lot of pain and a lot of inflammation. And I knew starting over, I would have to make sure my diet was changed too. Like, because you can stretch your stomach back out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a muscle. So my husband weighed 482 pounds at that time.
Okay.
So last February, we started keto. My sister was selling a nutritional vitamin product.
Okay. We'll leave it at that.
And it came with, we'll do this a lot today, probably, this stuff. And it came with the keto diet, and we ran out of the things, and we kept losing weight, and we were like, oh, it's keto. I mean, it really is.
It's not the vitamin.
Well, yeah, but no, I mean, that certainly helps with the energy, and certainly helps the liquid vitamins you're absorbing more. I mean, you do need them. But I was on bariatric vitamins, which are specifically designed for people that aren't absorbing. I mean, my stomach's only 4 ounces.
Okay.
So, his wasn't though, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, you cheated," and it's like, no, if you think eating 4 ounces of food is cheating, good luck, go try it. Because you actually, I don't know if you know, a lot of, obviously you do, but you fast for 10 days before the surgery.
Okay. So
that you can shrink your kidney and liver down so that they can get past it to your stomach, and it's a good way to know how you're going to do. A lot of people get the surgery done and then they go back and gain the weight. We just lost comedian Ralphie May, and he had the surgery done and then gained the weight back, and it's super dangerous.
Yeah.
You can like pop your stomach, and here's the kitty.
Yes.
The keto kitty and the keto video. What's up, kitty? What's this one's name?
That's Bella.
Hi, Bella.
She has a funky haircut. Here, let's see if we can get the video to go on her. She has a funky haircut because she's 15 years old.
Oh, and you need a kitty massage.
She has way more hair when it's fully grown than she can manage, and so I got to shave her down every 6 months to. So this is kind of halfway, well, maybe a quarter of the way grown out. So it looks pretty bad, but.
So we started keto in February of last year, and we have taken we didn't take a break until our wedding anniversary, and we went to Cabo and did a full 2 weeks of all-inclusive buffet.
Oh.
And we came home and we felt like crap. And
that's
so
where I went. I went to Cabo last year for an all-inclusive. We were there at the same time?
We
that was
do.
this year.
So we've done, and then Cancun trip where we went to a wedding and we took a break. But every time we take a break, we come home and we're like, bleh. But we have been a little stuck in the last 3 months. So we just started, we got new fitness watches this week.
Oh, that's a cool one. That's like a modern day Swatch watch.
You will not believe what this does. This has OK Google on it.
Oh.
Can I say Google? It's a product name. We're so careful nowadays with
I
our...
was going to say, I'm not that big yet, so
Okay,
I haven't got in trouble yet for product names.
I have, and it's embarrassing.
Oh.
It's like being called into a corner. Like, you're reminded of when you got caught as a child. You just sit there like, I'm so sorry, I thought I was helping you.
Maybe it'll be bleeped out in post then. I don't know.
Yeah, we were talking about timeout last night at the Mariners game. One of the players got in trouble. It's in the news. And he got 80 games suspension.
Oh.
And as comics, we break down things. And we were trying to figure out how they came up with 80 days.
Okay.
And so my first reaction was, well, what's a season? And a season's 162. So they had to be sitting there like parents talking. Should we do the whole season? No, let's do half a season. Okay, what's that? 81 games. No, that's too much. It sounds weird. Let's just do 80. So.
Or maybe, so I did this once with my son. Like, he got in trouble at school, and he did something bad on the bus. And so in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna ground him for like a week from his video game, right? But he comes home and have a talk with him, and I'm like, all right, so what do you think is an appropriate punishment, right? And he goes,
not riding the bus?
No, he said 2 weeks grounded for my video game. And I was like, I'm going to look like so awesome when I tell him what the punishment is. So I got to say, like, well, how about a week? And then he's like so happy with me. He's happy. Whereas if I would have just said a week, he would have been pissed at me.
Right. Hashtag parenting. It's not fun.
So maybe that's what they did with him. He was like, so what do you think is an appropriate whole season? How about 80 games?
We were just like, how did they come up with 80 games? But the Mariners game was sad.
Yeah.
That's sad news.
I went last week, and yeah, same thing.
But I, as a comedian, make friends with the entire 3 rows in front of me and 3 rows in back of me, and so it usually ends up being a stage by the time I'm done with it.
So you make your own fun, basically, at the game.
To the point where I come home and there's messages on my social media. Hey, I'm the guy that sat behind you in the phone, and we figured out who you were. So that's always fun.
Have you ever been to one of the hockey games up in Everett?
No.
Oh my gosh. I went to one of those, and the people screaming behind me, I can't say on my show what the lady said. I don't even want to say, like, in euphemisms, because it was just that bad what she said when she was getting mad, like yelling at the players or something like that. I was like, oh, well, very colorful language up here in Everett.
The funny thing about an Everett hockey game is you could pretty much see the same thing out on the streets of Everett. So why pay for the ticket? I would think that would be
somebody
redundant. If you didn't pay for the ticket, that kind of makes sense. Everett's kind of one of those towns that we can all make fun of. Usually it's the town next to a town, but if it's anywhere near Everett, that's the town that you can make fun of. Is Everett.
Well, I want to know, how'd you get into comedy? Like,
stand-up is a journey for anyone, just like going to college or like Dane Cook's quote was, it takes 8 years to be a doctor. He'd rather not, it takes that long to find your voice in comedy. I mean, it really does. Unless you have, it takes 10,000 hours to be a master of anything. But I was in radio.
Okay.
And I have a degree in broadcasting, well, a tech degree, but started in radio, and there's no immediate response. You don't know if you're, people always think you're funny or not funny. And then it always ends up where they want you to host an event. So I started when I was 16, still in high school. And then it just led into doing public DJ appearances, which leads into someone inevitably going, here, warm up the crowd and be a master of ceremony. It was just a normal transition for me. And I remember my first open mic, they're like, oh, it's going to be so scary. And it was a competition, and I won it. And I was like, this isn't scary. This feeds my ego. Yes. What? And then they were like, oh, well, they, and now they're calling it, the year of the female. And you're like, well.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, well, okay. We were working on a joke last night about if this was the wild kingdom, the women lionesses would be sitting around with their tails wagging going, oh, look at where we're at. We're top of the kingdom right now.
Nice.
Look at us.
Nice.
With the male lions walking by with their tails between their legs. And I live just outside of Hollywood in California too. So I experience a lot of the aftermath of the hashtag Me Too. There's a female comedy tour that they're putting together, hashtag Me Too, and they've asked me to be a part of it, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So it's definitely a time that women of comics are getting more stage time, which is great.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you know, if you're starting out, stage time is the only way you know if a joke is really going to work. Eventually, you'll get to the point where you absolutely know that joke's going to work. Like, you don't have to go work it out. Like, I have a 25-year-old roommate. She walked in the kitchen the other day, and she goes, oh, I just got up, and I have to work today. I'm going to go take a nap. And I was like, she's 25, and she hasn't done anything yet today, but she needs a nap. And that's like a generation thing. Do you remember ever taking a nap in your 20s?
Oh, hell no.
No,
It was like, that's what old people did. Like,
nap.
Like, my dad always wanted to take a nap, and I'm like, you're such an old fart. Like, that's what old people do. Take naps.
Taking naps. But I'm toured with another comic. We do a Too Fat, Too Furious tour, and we've done a lot of footage and videos about how to successfully do keto on the road.
Okay.
And when you go into Denny's, you know, what you can order and what you can't, and where you should, you know, the safe places. We call them, you know, safe keto zones.
Okay.
Because there's some restaurants where you're absolutely like, you'll think you can do chicken strips and ranch dressing and maybe get away with, you know, a day, but the wrong coating on the wrong product will throw you right out of ketosis, and then you're 3 days trying to get back in on the road, which is almost impossible. And the other tough thing is every show contractually, you show up and you get a really nice hotel. Now, I mean, I've been in some pretty bad hotels, and you know, you get that free continental breakfast. So we've been trying to show people, you know, it's all carbs. I mean, there's the bread section, and then there's the breaded bread section, and then there's the donut bread section, and there's the muffin bread, and then there's a cereal section next to the breads and the muffins, and you're just like, whoa. And are those products, the eggs and the sausage products, do they have fillers in them? I mean, that's really, and sometimes we'll ask the little ladies that have to put and they have no idea, which scares me even more if they don't know what's in you don't know what's in the eggs? Shouldn't there just be eggs in the eggs? Is there eggs in? So we do a lot of stuff about how to travel with keto.
We need to link those in the show notes.
Yeah, we don't have them out yet. It'll be a whole,
Stay
whole
tuned.
little webisode. We're to the webisode place where they download, 15 shows at once. So it's a different. This is a binge generation.
She does acrobats. Look at that. She climbed right up on there.
You need attention? Look at you. There's a cat on top of a hat in the Cat in the Hat.
Cat,
It's not a hat. It's a case.
This is her brother.
Hi, bro.
He's also
What's
15,
up?
but you wouldn't know by looking at him.
So then comedy starts as you're a open mic person. In my generation, you were an open mic person or an aspiring comic for quite a period of time. Now you can change your status on Facebook and you're a comedian.
I want to ask this of a
and
professional. What's the difference between a comic and a comedian?
Well,
is there a difference?
Sure.
Okay.
And there's a comic, which is even different than a comic or a comedian.
Okay.
And then there's difference between a set and an act, and there's difference between a joke and an act and a set. So it's just all lingo. It's all doctor lingo.
I know. I'm
we start out with a joke.
Yeah.
And then we figure out how to make that joke into a bit. And then, like, a feature set is usually 6 5-minute bits.
Okay.
And those are called bricks. That's why there's a brick wall behind the comedy set. So, like, when I shut my eyes, I can see keto diet, breasts, kids, husband. There's just one word. Like a speaker would just put one word for the topics and then the smaller. So I see all the bricks. And those are 5-minute chunks. And eventually you take 6 of them and you figure out how to make them all flow together into a set. And if they have a theme, that's kind of an act.
Okay. And
an act can pretty much be described in 3 words. Like if an agent called you and said, hey, I need 3 comics for the show. Describe yourself in 3 words. Like you have to know I'm a confident, flirty mom.
Okay.
And my act there's nothing in it that doesn't reflect confident, flirty mom.
Okay.
Or cupcake personality, or like I don't do anything political. I don't do anything. There's a few things you can't do without separating the crowd. You certainly can talk about them if you want, but you're going to separate the audience. If you talk about politics, you're going to separate 50-50. Then you have to figure out how to write a joke to bring them back together. If you talk about homelessness, you're certainly going to get, especially right now with all the news, you're going to get two sets of ideas. So I try to not, I try to talk about my weight up and my weight down. And being 600 pounds, people treated me, but I was a 600-pound touring comedian. And when people think of 600 pounds, they think of 600-pound life with people that are immobile and can't get up and can't move. And then there were so many women and so many men along the way that followed me because I was big. And you get a lot of the, oh, you're a sellout once you're losing weight. But it really makes them think about their journey and that, you know, what they need to start or what they do. I lost a comedian in my house. And at that moment, I'd already had the surgery, but I knew for sure that he chose death and I chose life. So I know every day with keto, in the beginning it was awesome, 20 pounds, 25. But I know if I follow the keto plan, I'm still losing weight and I still feel really good and I can walk without meds. Like the amount of meds, I can't even explain. I used to have a container of meds this big and I have, 6 I can take now. And it definitely, when you say cures diabetes, if you have type 2 diabetes that was onset from sugar, it certainly will shock your doctor, the numbers that you come in with keto. They'll just look at you like, oh, I've had to explain, I have a badass doctor, he's cool, but I've had to explain to him, he's like, what do you mean you eat 75% fat? Like, how is that even, like, what do you mean you eat butter and bacon and your heart rate is, like, you're not, and you don't have cholesterol? What do you, and so you have to sit down and explain to him, because most doctors don't have the nutritional, they have 6 or 8 hours that they're required to do for a
lot of them it's optional,
optional. Your nutrition is optional to doctors. Like that should be mind blowing when they prescribed you the meds that they make money off of. That should just be like mind blowing. Well,
did you know this as well, is that doctors are incentivized to keep you on medications?
Oh, yeah.
They get paid more per visit if they keep you on medications than if they take you off medications, they get paid less to see you.
Yeah, and that's absolutely like, it's a big business, certainly is, as well as keto. But diet, I mean, people are like, oh, it's the next fad diet. I would definitely say it isn't a diet. It's a way of life. Sugar is more of an addictive drug than heroin, and I can tell you there's been really stressful moments in my life where I thought, oh, all I need is sugar and I'll feel a lot better. And it does become a drug. When we lost the comic, there wasn't the choice at that time to overfeed. And I remember that was the only time that I've ever ordered Chinese food, and my husband brought it and he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm just eating and I threw up because I had such a little belly, and I just remember thinking 4 ounces of feelings isn't enough. But it certainly is a choice and a lifestyle. And it's cliche to say it's not a diet, but if you go through the first few days and you're on keto and in ketosis, and then you go out, you'll know the first or second time that that's not a way of life. Once you start burning the fat energy versus the sugar energy, the only time I have problems is sometimes, my mouth's dry. Sometimes we have nights where we have to do 3 shows, and I'm a headliner, so that means I start at 5 or 8, and there's a show at 8, a show at 10, and a show at 12. And that midnight show to find the fat energy is almost impossible. So I found that my energy definitely caps out at about 10 o'clock at night, and I do like a Diet Coke will get me through, where before, I mean, I certainly would have had to have carved up all night. So the energy is totally different. I mean, your body burning sugar versus burning fat is just a totally different feeling, especially for someone that was not using, exercise as a form to get energy through the day too. I was just using carbs, and now I can tell, like, if I don't have enough fat or if I haven't drank enough water. Like, you get to the point where you can just touch your skin and know you don't have enough water in it. And I went off ketosis a little bit in LA. We did a lot of stuff there I just wasn't planning, and I came home and then dropped the 15 pounds in the last 8 days again. Like, once you get back on track, it certainly rewards you instantly. It's not a long-term. It's easier to just get right back on track, though. Like, I wouldn't wait weeks or days or months. The quicker, I explain it to people, like, the further you get away, the harder it is to get back on track. Like, you cheat a little bit, just go back into it. And my husband is in the tech industry, and he's done well in life, so we've been able to afford to try, like, I have a shake that I carry with me. It's a keto shake, a strawberry keto shake. So I'll try to get a milk and a shake, and it's a full meal. And there's shakes in a can that I can take with me. And a lot of times, you're limited to just doing a burger without a bun. But if you ask people, they'll do special. Protein style is becoming like a key word, like a key phrase. And you can do In-N-Out protein style. That sauce is not keto though. So
And they don't have mayonnaise there, like you.
No, but I carry a whole condiment packs in my car, which really, really help. And I carry sweetener, like the liquid sweeteners. So I have a whole keto kit that I carry in my car. I'll send a picture of it to you. I don't think I have it with me. But I definitely take stevia, and Starbucks is really, really good about when I'm on the road. Sometimes there's only one Starbucks in a town, which sounds crazy. Because there's 4 of them at the corner, and there's one in the grocery, and then if you come out of the bathroom, there's one in the bathroom too. And if you don't stevia, they'll give you stevia. Like, Starbucks is super cool about, if you can't make it to the next town, a lot of coffee shops don't have stevia. I'm not a big other sweetener. I tried to grow my own stevia. Have you ever tried that?
Oh, it's so bitter and... Oh, no. What are you doing? Why would that go out? It's not even...
It's hard to grow.
You little asshole.
Yeah, we use 3 different iPads. That's cool. What is that?
This is the Mevo thing. Why is
No, the pad.
Oh, it's just an iPad, whatever version that is. All right, so we're going to do It's still counting. All right, so I guess the iPad crashed and we're still going. Okay. All right, well, that's good.
Technological difficulties.
Yeah, well, what's not a normal day if it's not.
But I think the key word in keto it is prep. I mean, I'm a big... so what's happened, too, is moving to LA and having all the projects that I'm working on, my husband is not keto prep friendly.
Okay.
So I prep all the food, and it's kind of impressive. Like, we figured out how to do containers that freeze. So if you open up the freezer, it just looks like prepped meals, and he knows he can microwave those and just add the ranch dip that we make, and we'll cut up the cucumbers for him. So and then I do egg cups so he'll have 12 or 14 egg cups done up with cheese and sausage, but it's definitely like a 2-day prep. Sometimes I prep for 20 days if I leave on the road, because I'm constantly, even if I'm home, like tomorrow I'm in Salem, so that's travel all day and then an overnight and then
They do comedy in Salem?
Sure. Name a town and I'll tell you where the comedy.
That's funny. So I grew up in Oregon. I was born in Eugene, so I used to go to the Black Angus in Salem and hang out.
Oh yeah, we do comedy. We've done comedy in Eugene, tons. And,
okay. Yeah.
And Alex's, there's some great comics. There was an all comedy radio station in Eugene that was about ready to go. What's that called? Syndicate. It was about ready to syndicate, but some health issues, and Chris's mom passed away. But there's some great comics that live in Eugene. Doug Stanhope's right hand man lives in Eugene. It's a little comedy hub down there.
Nice. I'll have to go down and watch some.
Salem, we do Do we have Oregon watchers?
Oh yeah, this is all
Oh,
over.
so we're at Saturday night. We're at the theater, the Northern Lights Theater, which is at the back west side of town, and they've taken one of the movie theaters and they've turned it into a adult drinking theater, and they took out every other seat, and there's a table, so there's actually a stage, and we do 2 shows at that. But I was in Salem last week at a little bar doing a benefit show, so there's 2 comedy shows going on in Salem.
Big time. Nice. All right.
But we travel a lot.
Can I ask you then how? So you mentioned, like, I'm curious how keto has affected your career. You mentioned a little bit about people saying, like, now you're a sellout because you had your brand before. But I'm wondering, how'd you notice, like, your energy and your creativity and your mental clarity? Like, what have you noticed with that?
Yeah, I mean, there was a stand-up that couldn't stand up anymore, which is really hard to tell a fat joke when you can't stand up. And I don't know how to explain that to people other than when you first start and you try to do a self-deprecating joke, you'll get these, and you're like, I know I'm fat. I'm not calling you fat. I'm joking about me. Ooh, you're worried about me. Or if you're out of breath trying to tell a fat joke. Or a lot of times there were stages where I'd walk in and go, oh my God, I can't get on that stage. One time we were in Montana, and there was a sandbags and a plastic chair, and they wanted us to get on a scaffolding over the crowd, and I was like, they're like, yeah, you got to go up there, and I was like, okay, and they announced me, and I just walked out right in front of it, and I moved the light with a broom handle, and I stood right in with the crowd, and they just looked at me, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
But I've always been confident, so a confident big girl is a lot different than someone that weighs 600 pounds and doesn't have confidence because they're too afraid to ask or too afraid to accommodate. Or I wasn't afraid to say, hey, you need to get me a chair without arms, or, I need a room with a different shower. There were some showers on the road. Some of the showers at our L hotels, they're those units, the tall units, and you can't open the door. So I definitely see the difference because I'm 250, about 253 today. So I'm working on the third 100 pounds, which is insane. Like, if you think about it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Impressive.
The third 100. I look like a Shar-Pei puppy naked. That's a good joke. But I can stand up. So people see the energy again, and if you want to get an applause break on a joke, like, you have to be able to stand up and look them in the face and be like, come on, that's the joke. If you're just sitting there, they're like, the energy definitely isn't as much as if you're sitting down. You can pull off, sitting on a chair, but if you really want to make a statement or a point at the end or drop a punchline, I mean, you want to be, if you're asking them to stand up for you at the end of the show, you still have to be standing up by the end of the show. So it definitely got harder, and it got harder to get in, but it got to the point where as a headliner, you have an opener with you, and I had some incredible people that carried my baggage and dropped me off at doors, and other headliners you work with, like, I remember Susan Rice drove me around once all the way to the entrance of a convention so that I could get as close as I could because, she knew I couldn't walk that far. And then I got gout really bad. And if you don't know what gout is, I mean, they call it the king's disease, but it's the worst form of arthritis there is. And I don't have that anymore with keto, although in the beginning, they had to adjust a medication, but it does say that people that have had gastric bypass surgery should not do keto, and I would definitely challenge that.
Yeah.
The more research I did, I knew that it was the right thing for everything that we wanted to accomplish, like being able to have our joints feel comfortable without. I was to the point where I took 3 or 4 Vicodin a day, and you're not really that clear. Like, it's really hard to remember jokes, or they'd be like, well, smoke weed, and you're like, I have to remember an hour of material. Like, it's not really conducive to memory. My game is memory and words, and so the answers that they were coming up with weren't really working for me. But keto was certainly, I brought it to Larry and I said, paleo is popular and Atkins is causing, so much heart disease, and we knew that protein was the answer, but we didn't know we had too much protein. We didn't know the effects of too much protein, because Atkins was so popular, like when I was coming up and getting bigger, but it certainly caused, anytime I did the Atkins diet, I certainly had high blood pressure related results, and I certainly had cholesterol results. So I knew that I had to find something else, but I don't have any bad results on my test at all with keto. Like, even the weird thing about keto is when you realize that you need more salt.
Yeah.
Like, it's the weirdest thing when you've been raised and told that salt is bad and salt is not good for you, but that you have to add a certain amount and figure out what the amount is for you. And you'll know from water retention. I can tell from my wedding ring. Do you have something that you know for sure you need salt?
If I'm just really, really thirsty, I think, usually.
But
but I also measure out at least a teaspoon a day that I add to water. So.
Or if you start craving potato chips, that's and my keto cure for potato chips is the Parmesan crisps.
Oh yeah, the Costco wisps.
No, now they're selling them everywhere. Have you seen them?
Trader Joe's has one that are good. We've done taste tests with
Safeway.
them. The Moon Cheese is not as good.
No.
That's a brand, sorry, but they're not. We've done taste tests with them.
And they have a filler.
Oh, do they now?
The Moon Cheese I got.
Maybe they've been sold to another company.
But let me see what kinds they are. They just have Parm crisps.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen those. Okay.
Little Parm crisps. You guys can't see my phone.
I know.
And I do avocado on my butt. These are portable.
What's your Instagram?
It's Cupcake Comic. But I also have my Facebook. I have Keto Comic page.
Okay.
That's getting ready to. You'll be able to watch the shows on that.
Oh, cool.
So salt was a big thing. Getting to know that we needed to add more salt because we're told when in cooking that every time you add salt. But I can tell about when my ring gets. I move it too much. I've convinced my husband that it's bad luck to cut a wedding ring when you lose weight. And that you're just supposed to move it to the bigger finger and get it replaced with a bigger ring.
sounds logical to me.
You guys
Yeah.
have any? That's relationship math. The comics have done, but he does great. He's walking better, and he's 10 years younger than me, so he really wasn't concerned about the health stuff yet. So I'm 10 years into the more. I'm in my 50s, so I'm starting to feel the ohs, and. People keep asking me, the one thing, people say weird things when you've lost this much weight. Oh my God, your face is so pretty now. And you're like, whoa. That's probably not the same face. It's the same. But they'll say, but the big thing they say is, I bet you feel so much better. Like, you must feel so much better. Well, I'm not carrying around another 250-pound person.
Yeah.
And it's not that you feel better, it's just that your muscles are strong enough to carry a 600-pound person. So it definitely, especially in California, in the heat, my body just feels like it can get up and move. And my watch tells me to.
Well, so basically don't mess with her because she's strong enough that she could flip a 250-pound person.
At least with these big muscles. Those are, and I think I was really worried about the skin, the extra skin, but I've just dealt with it. Like,
well, and I would think it's easier to deal with that than the extra 250 pounds, right?
Yeah, it just sounds ridiculous, but you think about all the hanging extra skin. But I mean, nowadays it's so easy to have those, and that's the next part of the journey.
It's like another trip to Mexico, right?
Ugh. So the Mexico experience, people ask me a lot, like, you went to Mexico and had an organ removed. And it's like, pretty much. I went to Tijuana and had 78% of my stomach cut out. But the doctor that I had, Lisa Lepinelli had it done too. And she has a foundation for women that can afford to have it done.
Oh.
But it's only $4,000 cash.
Okay.
And they meet you at the airport and they take you to the hospital facility, which is a private facility. But the doctor that did my surgery has done 5,000 of them.
Wow.
So, and he was super
He's doing
cool.
2 at the same time? Like,
And he does, he does them in Las Vegas too. So you can get American surgeons that do surgeries in Mexico because it's cheaper for them. But there were some moments that were scary. Like the drip, the IV drip going into it had the date, expiration date scratched out. And I remember laying there going, it just said March 17th. It's clear as day. And the year was scratched out. And I thought, well, it's just fluid, right? There were a few months where you're like, and then they didn't give me any drugs in Mexico. And I thought the one place that I should get extra drugs. And he goes, well, I can give you Tylenol 3. And I was like, what?
Oh, wow.
I brought better drugs into Mexico than what you're offering. I can go across the street and get better pain pills. But the sad thing was there were women getting the surgery done, and one girl was 18 and she weighed 156 pounds. And I was like, girl,
oh, wow,
you don't need that. You need some love. You don't need a, but she's like, I want to be as skinny as mom. And her mom was there, and she weighed about 110, and I was like, But I never had the fat shaming, or I was a yell eater in high school, and I never had those years of, and I didn't really know that I got fat. I tell my sisters now, I'm like, why didn't you guys tell me? I was like, I look back at the pictures and I'm like, oh my God, like, why didn't you tell me? But my personality carried the weight for me. So it was never, it didn't really dawn on me until the health problems started that it was time to take it off.
So there's something, so I interviewed, you probably don't know this guy, Tyler Cartwright, has been doing keto. He's lost 295 pounds and started out about 505. And one of the things in an interview I did with him that really stood out to me was he said that when he was at his heaviest, the thing that he wanted people to know was, like, people are afraid to touch people when they're bigger. Right?
Yeah, or what's funny is you'll be walking down the sidewalk and there'll be plenty of space and they'll totally, like, give you, like, all this extra room. And LA is worse. Like, I'm still, in my 340s, like, I'm still up there. So in LA, I'll walk by them and they'll go, Jesus! And I'll go, you should have seen me 2 years ago. Like, what? But I'm not afraid of calling someone out, and that's part of being a comic is people think that that's an improv thing when we get heckled. It's not. It's a practice thing. Like, I practice for a lady heckling me. I practice for a man heckling me. I practice for a drunk lady with blonde hair heckling me. I practice for a drunk guy in a plaid shirt heckling me. I practice if a waitress drops the tray. What are you going to say?
Oh,
If your mic goes out, what are you going to say?
No, I know. I've been doing this 2 months. I've got a lot to learn.
Yeah. So in the car driving,
I'm taking notes. Everything
we
you're saying is so
practice
great.
in driving. We have 5 hours to Salem, so we practice. When I get young comics in the car, we do a lot of drill. What are you going to say? What are you going to say? What are you going to say? And if those are like ninja stars. Those are in your pockets. And if you've ever once decided what you're going to say, it will always be there.
Yeah.
And then someone will drop a tray and you'll go like, oh, there's a job application right now, Craigslist. Like, it'll just like, oh, I know what to say. When the mic goes out, it's like, did Radio Shack sponsor our show? Like, you'll know what to say in those moments. But if you don't have anything to say in those moments, it's 20 seconds or 8 seconds of dead air on stage is like forever. Like, I've had a man, walk up and expose himself, and the only thing I thought to say was, if that was mine, I wouldn't show it off. I wouldn't.
Did you practice for that? Like, all the
No.
scenarios?
But eventually it gets.
Yeah.
Eventually it gets. And that, I'm kind of known for that, taking people out. They call me the mama up here. Right now, I'm just focusing on me and the keto shows, and another thing, there'll be another announcement next week. I can't tell you.
Okay.
But
stay tuned. We got some exciting stuff.
And but I took out so Andrew Rivers, Bob Rivers' kid from the radio.
Okay.
He does stand up. Have you met Andrew yet?
No.
He's a headliner now, but and Adam that owns Tacoma and Spokane comedy clubs. We've been out on the road for a long time. And then Travis Nelson, big tall guy.
Yep.
So I took
He
Travis
actually
out
was
for-
kind of the person who encouraged me to go out the first time this year to Comedy Underground. I was like, I watched him perform several times and chatted with him after the shows. And like, I've always wanted to do stand-up. I did it in college for a talent show, and he's like, you should go do it. And I'm like, all right. So Travis Nelson was my, I don't know what you call it, muse, not really muse, but so he told me suggested where I should go the first time.
That's a tall drink of water.
Yeah.
So when Travis and I first started, I told him, like, I'll give you 4 months and I'll teach you everything I know. And then after that 4 months, I mean, he's been a full-time working paid comedian.
Yeah.
But when we first went out on the road, he, I would get out of the car in, way up almost to Canada and Montana, and they'd look at me like, oh, God. And then Travis would get out of the car, and they'd be like, what is this? And we'd be like, Circus is in town. And people will go up to Travis. He's like, really tall.
6'7", I think, yeah.
I think it's 6'9".
Yeah.
But people come up to him, and the first thing it's almost like the weight loss. They go, oh, you must play basketball. And he'd be like, and I go, they're like, how tall are you? And I go, it's weird. No one asks me how fat. How much do you weigh? But we certainly had a lot of fun out on the road as two obviously different people.
Yeah.
We looked like a big, huge number 10, like a weird
10
everywhere we went. And then the last few years, I've been taking, like Tom Carvey went out with me for a year, and then Dex came on board. So taking Dana's kids out has been, super, super fun. They're great. And it's weird that we call them kids, but one of them's 22 and one of them's 25, or they're 25 and 26 now, because it's been 2 years. But so that's been a great experience because Dana's so popular, he can't take them out in public. I mean, he can't go anywhere. Like, it's Dana Carvey, it's Garth. But so having his kids, like, it brings an extra level of history, and I'm a real comedy historian. I studied it, I know it, I can quote the comedy Bible. Don't do comedy in Florida, Alex Elkin. It's a joke.
Inside joke? Must be an inside joke. Huh?
Yeah, when you first get headlining, they'll just say, I don't do gigs in Florida. And he's down in Florida right now, and 2 of the gigs canceled. And we're all like, don't do gigs in Florida. We told you. But it is, because you go from not knowing, doing open mics and not knowing how to structure jokes. The biggest mistake comics make is they start doing all the open mics. And a lot of them will end up, this sounds crazy, but they'll just be comics that you're telling jokes to. And then the dirtier you get, the comics are, they'll laugh, and you're like, I need to be dirty. And then you'll go to get a job, and they're like, we don't hire dirty comics. And you're like, wait a minute, I thought that was funny. So the best thing that I did was met a lot of headliners and then just got on their shows. Like Megan Gross was on our show last Wednesday over at the Clearwater Casino. And they'll let me give you 5 minutes. And it's a nervous point where people are like, I don't want to, and it's not conceit or ego, but my job is that they don't remember you after, you can do whatever, it doesn't matter what you do. My job is to make sure,
They remember you.
my face is on the post, my job is to make sure. So I always tell people when they're nervous, don't worry about your time in the beginning. I'll haul you off if you get to the point where, and don't worry about being funny. Your job is to just figure out how not to hold the microphone in front of your face so that they can see it. Your face is, 10 to 20% of the joke. So make sure that you set your levels here. And if your first joke doesn't work, which should be your second to the best joke because you close on your best joke. If your first joke doesn't work, it's either the light or the mic. They can't hear you or they can't see you because that joke works. So you have to make sure that you feel the heat on your face and step into the light. And so there's so many times with Travis where I'd be like, the light, because he's so tall. And he'd be like, why? You can see on his face the jokes aren't working. And so he's learned, to go in early and then make sure you adjust the light. And for a lot of us that are not as tall as most men, which is what comedy is like 95% of, you want to make sure that you just step back another foot so that your face is in the light. And the first reaction to lights is to get out of them. And then you learn that there's this spot where if you just look just right, the lights, will fix your eyes, and then you can see the crowd. Like, it's a weird, like, magic trick. Like, oh, they're there. And so when you get used to setting, if you look just beyond the horizon of lights, your eyes will just all of a sudden show you the whole crowd. And the best thing, if the lights are too bright and you can't see the crowd, is I will look at the crowd before I go on stage, and I will memorize who's in the front row. So if somebody says something to me, I'll be like, oh, that's the guy in the checkered shirt, and I'll have something to say about. So they still think I can see them, but I can't see them. There's sometimes where you're up there like, oh my God, I can't see anybody. And if you tell a joke and it doesn't work, you're like, is there anybody here? So it's really good to sit out. If you do a show in a small town, I always go sit with the crowd before I go on stage, because your friends will laugh at you a lot more than your. So I'll make friends with the audience before. That's Debbie Wooten's trick. She's a comic that also has lost a lot of weight. I think she got up to 300, and she has polio, which is insane to think that there's someone in 2018. But her mom was a nurse, and she was exposed to it. And there's pictures of her with Martin Luther King when she was like 5 years old with her braces on. So she's overcome so much being a female touring comic with polio. And being a woman comic's tough. Like, you got to fight for the spots with the boys, but being a woman comic with a disability is even harder, because they, we don't want to accommodate this, we don't have to accommodate that, we don't want to accommodate this. So, they have to think about travel and accommodations, and she's had to overcome a lot.
Wow.
Like, I couldn't, if they flew me for those last 8 years of headlining, they'd say, hey, can we fly you out? And I'd go, where's it at? And I'd have to say, I'd have to kind of dance around the fact that I can't fly in a plane unless you want to fly me first class. So I didn't. So there's a whole decade where I did New York, and I drove. Like, I could drive 19 hours straight. And then my feet started swelling up, and I'm like, oh, I have to stop more. And I got to the point where I would have to plan, 1 or 2 days to get somewhere. And then that starts costing you the hotels. But so I can fly now, so I can be there, So that's changed so much. Although people on an airplane really treat you like crap when you're fat. They see you and they're like, oh, I hope I'm not sitting next to him. And I'm working on a joke right now about now they're jealous because Larry can block the whole lane for me to get my stuff down and get out. Like, who's mad now? You know what I'm saying? Like, as everybody does that mad dash to get their bags.
Right.
My husband will just stand there like, we're all going to wait for my wife.
Sweet. Well, I just want to wrap up and ask, what tips do you have for somebody starting out on keto?
Well, don't get too freaked out by the whole keto flu thing. Your body's definitely going to go through withdrawals, and set yourself up for success for those 3 days. I mean, there are great coconut flour and almond flour and, microwave keto bread are going to be your friend. Don't say I can't have bread. Don't say I can't have cookies. Don't say I can't have brownies. Don't say you can't have pancakes. You can have anything anything you ate before, you can make keto. And all you do is put in, like, if you're making spaghetti, just put the word keto in front of spaghetti and you'll find that recipe. And just don't freak out that, like, if you want a hot dog, cut your hot dog in half and make your own relish with a little pickle and stevia, and, put the relish in the middle of your hot dog. And there's keto ketchup you can buy. There's mustard's pretty much all keto. Some of the Grey Poupon stuff has filler in it. You gotta be careful of that. But you can make a hot dog and, wrap lettuce around it. But they do have keto hot dog buns now. They're expensive and they have to, like, travel through. Have you had the buns that come frozen?
No. I've lost my taste for the texture of bread. Like, it just is gross.
Yeah. Oh, that's one thing. If you're on keto for a long time and then you eat bread, you're just like, oh.
Yeah, no, it like that whole aisle smells bad. Like the texture. I've made the keto breads and I'm like, I don't like this mushy gummy stuff in my mouth.
Yeah, and people are like, oh, all of a sudden everybody's gluten. No, it's not all of a sudden. For years, people have been affected by gluten. I mean, there's tens of thousands of years where people didn't eat this processed crap. But, you know, learning how to go into a convenience store, is there anything that's keto? Yeah, pepperoni and cheese. So I eat, my go-to are deviled eggs. Like, that's your perfect keto bite. If you use the right mayonnaise and the right amount, like the egg, like it's a perfect snack for me. So I always keep deviled eggs in the refrigerator. It's like my big keto. Cream cheese is my friend, like my best friend. And if you learn the right, there's some seasonings and there's some, what is the xanthium gum? Do you use that yet?
I've tried it in a couple of
you
recipes.
You can make gravy, like I can make gravy out of cream cheese and make it like pretty thick. And you can make, you can do, the stuff I do with zucchini is insane. You can do zucchini brownies, zucchini bread, zucchini spaghetti, like the spiral.
Have you seen Maria Emmerich's apple pie made with zucchini?
Insane. The zucchini brownies, you'll eat them and be like, that's what people say at my house. There's no sugar in this? No. How can there be no sugar in this? So don't deprive yourself of anything. Just figure out I bake a lot though. And people are like, how do you have the time and the energy to do it? And it's like, you just take your Sundays and your Mondays. But Amazon's made that easy. I don't have to go to a store and look at all the other crap. Like, it comes to my door and then I prep it all. And cheese is like super my friend. My big problem is trying to stay regular. Like the first 3 days, I don't know if they call it the keto backup or the keto traffic jam. That's probably the best way for us to describe it.
That's another one the salt will help with if you're getting enough salt.
Yeah, so I have a really hard problem with that. But there's a Smooth Moves tea. There's also a keto coffee creamer. If you're at work trying to do keto, you can go to any nutrition store and it's a little round container and it's a keto coffee creamer that turns your coffee into a fat bomb without having to take butter and everything or coconut oil or any of the oils to work. Have you had the keto creamer?
No, not specifically.
And so we do the keto, and it's on Amazon. We do the keto creamer. Like, he has one at work. I have one in the car. So I'll order an Americano at Starbucks and just put the keto creamer in. So I have a fat bomb with me. So the biggest problem that you're going to have is getting enough fat in, which sounds crazy. But you'll end up every day at the end of the day with extra fat. And the trick is to add the fat without adding the calories. So I find like I'll make specific little nighttime fat bombs for that I know I'm going to be like 30 fat short. But I keep track of do you track your keto?
Not anymore. Well, I've been doing a high protein experiment the last month. And so I've been tracking for that. But today is actually my 3-year keto anniversary.
Woo!
Today, May 18th.
To say it's your birthday.
Yeah. So, but the last month I've been doing a high protein tracking.
Wasn't that when the mountain blew up too?
Yes. 1980. Yeah, May 18th.
Yeah, I was in the 7th grade. Were you born?
Yeah, I was 10, almost 10. I was 9.5.
So keto coffee creamer will save your life at work because it's a full meal replacement too. So you can make any just regular coffee into a meal and it's a fat bomb. And people have no idea how many different kinds of fat bombs you can make. Like there's 900 fat bomb books on, and some of them are really extensive. Like you can make your own cookie dough fat bombs, but you got to make the cookie and then crumble the cookie to make it takes days. You could spend, but anything you can make regularly, you can make a keto version of it.
All right, I have one more question for you.
Hey.
It's your last day on the planet. The meteor's coming at us. We're all gonna die. What's your final meal?
Vicodin. Oh.
You don't want to be in pain when the meteor hits.
I'm a big eggs girl, so we're big. Probably a big vegetarian omelet with lots of cheese on top and a side of keto gravy.
Sweet.
You can get them to make your keto gravy in the back. They'll do it without flour for you.
Oh, yeah?
Sometimes I take my own almond flour into restaurants and I'll flirt with the chefs and ask them to make me some keto gravy.
Nice. Sweet.
So that's another thing. Just don't be afraid to ask people. Like, Don't put any butter. Like, if you go to Red Lobster and order the green beans and you have 2 bites, you'll know that you're eating sugar. And you're like, who would put sugar on green beans? And they're like, oh yeah, we make them with brown sugar. And you're like, what? And you'll know instantly that you're eating sugar. Like, that's how weird it gets, to the point where you're like, I am eating sugar on my vegetables. That should be a sin, to serve vegetables and not tell people they have doused them in brown sugar. But you'll know right away that you'll feel it. Like, my eyes will tell me, do you feel sugar have you accidentally ate it?
Oh, yeah. I can taste it right away. And then if I've purposefully had something where it's like, I'm just going to have a little bit of that, I feel like garbage the rest of the day. So one of the reasons I started keto, well, no, it wasn't why I started it, but one of the things that went away from me was a chronic pain syndrome after a car accident in my legs. And so that will, if I have too many carbs, that will flare that up. I'll start to get really tight, painful legs. And so I zero appeal because I know how terrible I feel immediately of it.
Yeah, and I have a new shake that the workout guys use, and it's an orange shake that puts you right back into ketosis immediately, which is insane. And I don't think you stay in ketosis, but I think you're there for a little bit, enough to get back on track. So I think if you cheat, the quicker you get back into the flow is better. But yeah, I feel like crap if I eat sugar. Like, I don't even want sugar. If I see sugar, like, we were writing a joke the other night about why they call the layers of cake tiers. There's a reason.
30 minutes at the pre-cruise dinner.
It's a long time.
Oh no,
That's a Seinfeld and a half episode.
I got it all. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm going to be nervous and excited, and it's going to be awesome.
Well, the exciting thing about comedy is, like, all the time that you've done public speaking counts.
Yeah.
All the time that you've done any sort of one-on-one kind of training, where you've had to keep a flow going counts.
Yeah.
But are you going to be at a podium? Or are you just on a mic?
I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like. It's going to be a surprise. So I get there. So
it's just like keto diet. Control your environment.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you can make sure, a podium hides notes. So if you have to take notes on stage, you can require in your writer that they have a stool or they have a podium or they have notes for you. But 30 minutes, I remember trying to do my first hour, and I just kept going. And when I got to 59 minutes, I was like, we're there. It's a lot longer to think. Yeah. But if you're talking about something that you like, that's an easy. You're gonna actually be talking to keto people or low carb people.
Yep.
Low carb people and keto people are different. Paleo people and keto people are different.
Yeah.
People get in the paleo versus keto arguments with you. Be careful for that.
Yeah.
Don't walk into one of those Atkins conversations either.
Well, Susan, I've so loved having you here. Oh my gosh, we're going to link everything below. Lots of good stuff. And as you have more stuff coming out, we'll put it in the notes there as well. And so if you guys like this, thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. They just changed something on YouTube now, so subscribe to like something, but give us all the love there.
Keto on.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.